Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're turning inward. We're setting aside the outside world for a bit and focusing on that internal battlefield, the place where everything really gets decided. We're diving into that really frustrating feeling, that internal struggle where you realize, wait, I'm not fighting the world so much as I'm fighting myself.
Yeah.
You know that feeling, right?
Yeah.
Repeating the same mistake, the same self-sabotaging cycle, even when you know better. Your intelligence is screaming stop, your willpower feels ready, but it happens again.
Right. And that repetition, that sense of being stuck, it often comes from what we might call the hidden prison of unexamined thought pattern.
Hidden prison. Okay.
Yeah, they're like these invisible scripts that get etched into you maybe over decades.
Yeah.
By family stuff, culture, certain, wounding experiences. And they aren't really truths, but they feel like truths. They're more like absorbed instructions that just quietly whisper directions in your mind. So you end up living a lot of your life on, autopilot or just on repeat. You think you're choosing freely, but really, your choices are often just running those old habits, those thought patterns you never consciously designed.
Okay, wow. That sounds kind of bleak, like a sealed fate almost, which is a bit terrifying.
It would feel that way.
But the hope here, and this is really the focus of our deep dive for you listening, is that these patterns, they aren't destiny.
Exactly.
They're just habits, right? Deeply ingrained habits of the mind. And neuroscience has actually shown that the brain is plastic. It can be rewired.
It literally reorganizes itself with every new awareness, every different choice.
So our mission today is pretty straightforward. Learn how to uncover this hidden architecture of your thinking, and then how to consciously design new patterns that actually drive growth, not just repetition.
And to kick off this whole process, this mental architecture work, you really have to embrace one core idea. It sounds simple, but it's revolutionary. You are not your thoughts. You are the thinker of your thoughts.
Okay, you are not your thoughts, you are the thinker.
That single distinction, that's the pivot point.
Yeah.
It separates living reactively from living deliberately.
And the practical impact of that, it seems huge. It basically decides if we're victims of our own minds or if we're actually, in charge.
Precisely.
Because if you believe you are your thoughts, well, then every fear that pops up feels like the absolute truth. Every doubt feels like it defines you.
You get carried away by the tide.
Right.
Powerless.
Yeah, exactly. But when you step into that role, the thinker, the conscious operator,
then your thoughts become, objects, information. They're not commands anymore.
Ah, okay.
The things you can look at, evaluate, and this is key redirect. They're options, not orders.
I get the theory, I do. But I imagine someone listening is thinking, okay, but how do I feel that separation? When that anxiety thought hits, it feels incredibly real. How do you step out of that river when the current feels so strong?
That is the challenge. That's the mastery point, really.
Yay.
Most people live inside that river of thought. They mistake the current for who they actually are. They just get swept along.
Right.
The immediate way in is awareness. Mastery starts the second you can metaphorically step onto the bank and realize, wait, I am not the river, I am the observer.
Okay.
That pause, that little bit of space where you realize I have a choice here, that's the foundation. Once you start consistently watching your thoughts instead of just drowning in them, you start to see the patterns, the repetition.
And seeing it gives you leverage.
Exactly. Once you see the repetition, you gain the leverage you need to actually break it.
Okay, so we've got that foundational shift. Thinker versus thought. Now let's dig into how these faulty patterns actually get built in the first place. You use the analogy of a hidden blueprint for a house.
Yeah, like a house that looks okay on the outside, but underneath, in the foundation, there are these cracks. And those cracks, they determine every future problem, every structural failure down the line. And that blueprint gets drawn up really early during your most impressionable years. These patterns often start as survival mechanisms.
Survival? How so?
Well, think about a child who's criticized constantly. What do they learn? They absorb the script of self-doubt, right? Or a child who only gets rewarded for being perfect. They internalize this pattern of crushing perfectionism.
Okay.
These scripts solidify over time, and they operate below conscious awareness. And because they feel so familiar, so normal, they feel like truth.
So self-doubt just feels like being realistic or humble.
Exactly. Or being hypervigilant feels like wisdom, like being prepared. They're distortions, but they feel functional at the time.
And what's really sneaky is why the brain keeps running these old scripts, even when they're causing misery now in adulthood.
Right. It's not about truth. It's about efficiency.
Efficiency.
The brain's core job is survival and saving energy, so it creates shortcuts, heuristics, they're called.
Okay.
So let's say speaking up as a kid got you shut down or shamed publicly. Your brain quickly creates a survival pattern. Stay quiet, it's safer.
Makes sense back then.
Totally protective then. But fast forward decades later. You're in a meeting. You need to voice a key idea, but boom, that old stay quiet program kicks in automatically.
Even though the threat is gone.
Long gone. But the brain defaults to the efficient known path, the prison of silence in this case.
Wow. And this drive for efficiency, you mentioned it fuels two major cognitive traps that keep these cycles going.
Yes, two big ones that really lock things in place.
The first one we see everywhere, I think, confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the mind acting like a biased detective, only hunting for evidence that supports what it already believes.
Like a spotlight.
Exactly, a very selective spotlight. So if you believe deep down, I'm just unlucky, or I always mess things up, your mind will shine that light only on your failures, the times you slipped up, the things that went wrong.
And it just ignores the successes.
Conveniently filters them out, or explains them away as luck. So you stop seeing reality clearly. You just see the reflection of your own negative belief, which of course makes it feel even more true. A self-fulfilling prophecy.
That leads right into the second trap, doesn't it? Cognitive dissonance.
It does. Cognitive dissonance is that really uncomfortable mental tension, that ache you feel when your actions don't line up with your stated beliefs or values.
Like saying, I value honesty, but then, telling lies. Or my health is important while consistently making unhealthy choices.
Precisely. And the human mind hates that tension. It really does. So instead of doing the hard work changing the action, which takes energy and maybe facing uncomfortable truths,
it takes the easy way out.
Often, yes.
Yeah.
It takes the path of least resistance. It might twist reality a bit, or more commonly, it adjusts the belief.
How does that work?
So instead of stopping the unhealthy behavior, you might rationalize it. Oh, everyone does it, or it's not that bad, or I deserve a break. The dissonance gets resolved by lowering your standards or compromising your integrity, basically.
And that keeps you stuck in the cycle, feeling okay about it, but not actually changing.
Exactly. You maintain this illusion of consistency without the discomfort of actual change.
Okay, we've covered the thought patterns, the blueprints, the traps like confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance. But you said thoughts are just the expression, like branches.
Right. If we really want to get to the source, we need to look deeper than the thoughts themselves. We need to look at what's driving them.
The engine.
The engine, yes. Thoughts are like branches, visible and numerous. But emotions, particularly those deep foundational feelings like fear, shame, longing, deep hurt, those are the roots.
Oh.
And trying to change persistent negative thinking without dealing with those emotional roots is pretty much futile in the long run. It's like painting over a crack in the wall without fixing the foundation.
It might look better for a little while.
For a week, maybe. But the cracks, the underlying issues, they will reappear.
And the most common way people deal with those painful roots, those uncomfortable emotions, is avoidance, right?
Absolutely. Avoidance is huge. People avoid feeling that old wound, that primal shame or fear or hurt, because, frankly, it's deeply uncomfortable. It can feel overwhelming.
So they distract themselves.
Exactly. Turn to distraction. Binge watching shows, endless scrolling on phones, packing their schedules, maybe using substances, anything to numb or avoid the feeling.
And the source material we looked at was really clear on this. Avoidance is the chain. It's what keeps the pattern alive.
It really is. The moment you run from the emotion, you effectively give it control over you. You reinforce its power.
Okay, so this brings us to emotional filters. How do emotions act like filters?
Well, your current emotional state literally acts like a lens, coloring everything you perceive. Think about this. Let's say a manager, Sarah, gets a totally neutral email asking her to confirm a project deadline. Simple request. If Sarah wakes up feeling happy, confident, secure, she reads that email as just an email, a routine administrative thing, no big deal.
Right.
But if she wakes up feeling anxious, maybe tapping into some old feelings of inadequacy or not being good enough, she reads that exact same email completely differently.
How so?
It might feel like a microaggression, like her boss is checking up on her, doesn't trust her, is questioning her competence.
Wow. The email didn't change at all.
Not one word. But her internal emotional state, her filter, changed everything about how she interpreted it. She mistook the lens, her anxiety or shame for reality itself.
So she's reacting to the past, essentially.
Precisely. She might be seeing that email through a filter of, say, childhood criticism or rejection, not through the actual reality of her current capable professional self. Recognizing the filter is key. It allows you to question the perceived threat. Is this real, or is this the filter talking?
Okay, this feels like the real pivot point. For anyone listening who's thinking, right, I'm tired of being a passenger, I want to be the author, how do we actually do this? How do we move from understanding all these mechanics to actually taking action?
Action, yes. It starts, as we touched on, with awareness.
Awareness, that's step one.
It's the non-negotiable first step to freedom. You absolutely cannot change what you refuse to see.
Makes sense.
The goal is to insert space, even just a tiny microsecond of space, between the stimulus, the event, the thought, the feeling, and your usual automatic response.
Because that automatic thought is so fast.
Lightning fast.
Yeah.
So we have to deliberately slow that process down. This might mean noticing the feeling that comes before the thought, or even just a physical sensation in your body, instead of just waiting for the usual loud narrative to kick in.
Okay, so in that moment when the familiar loop starts playing, the self-criticism, the fear, the urge to hide or lash out, how do we use that tiny space of awareness?
You use it to ask questions. You pause. And like a good detective investigating a scene, you create that space by asking some really concrete questions.
Like what?
Start with the story itself. Ask, okay, what is the story I'm telling myself right now? Name it. Is the story, I'm incapable, or they'll definitely reject me, or my partner is doing this to me?
Just identifying the narrative.
Yes. And once you've named the narrative, the story, then you dig for the root.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, what am I actually feeling underneath this thought?
Underneath it.
Yeah. For instance, your surface reaction might be anger or frustration, but if you pause, really pause and feel into it, you often find the root emotion is actually something else. Maybe deep hurt or fear of abandonment or shame.
So going from anger down to the hurt underneath.
Exactly. And that pivot from just reacting to the anger to understanding the underlying hurt, that's incredibly powerful because now you can address the root cause, not just trim the branches.
That feels like a critical shift. Okay, so we identify the script, we find the root emotion. What's next? You mentioned questioning and reframing.
Yeah.
Shifting perspective.
Yes. And the first part of questioning is hammering home that idea we talked about. Beliefs are not facts.
Right. They feel like facts, but they aren't.
They're conclusions.
Yeah.
Conclusions you drew based on limited evidence, often gathered when you were much younger or in a very specific, maybe difficult context.
So we need to challenge them.
You absolutely must. Treat every core limiting belief like a witness on the stand under cross-examination. Challenge its authority. Ask, is this belief always 100% true? What evidence do I have that directly contradicts this?
So if the belief is, I never finish what I start.
You actively hunt for counter evidence.
Yeah.
You force yourself to remember and acknowledge every single time you did finish something, no matter how small. You shine your own spotlight on the exceptions.
Okay. And that leads to reframing, which you said isn't just thinking positive thoughts.
No, it's much more strategic than that. Reframing is about consciously choosing an empowering context or meaning for an event or a feeling. The classic example is Thomas Edison.
With the light bulb.
Right. When asked about his thousands of supposed failures trying to invent it, he didn't say, I failed thousands of times. He reframed it. He said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work.
Ah. Same events, totally different meaning.
Exactly. The experiment's not working was the same. But the frame he chose transformed debilitating failure into valuable progress and data collection. It fueled him instead of stopping him.
So how do we apply that to those limiting scripts we talked about? Like, I must be perfect or I'm worthless.
Okay, so the automatic script, the belief, is perfection or worthlessness. The reframe isn't denying reality by saying, I am perfect, because that's likely untrue and unhelpful.
Right.
An empowering reframe might be something like, my goal is progress, not perfection. Every mistake isn't proof of worthlessness. It's just data that helps me refine my next step.
Okay, so you're choosing a meaning that allows for action, for learning.
Instead of a meaning that paralyzes you with fear of not meeting that impossible standard, you choose empowerment over paralysis.
Okay, let's recap the journey we've taken here. We've explored these invisible scripts running on autopilot, the old survival mechanisms that actually keep us small now. We looked at cognitive traps like confirmation bias.
And cognitive dissonance.
Right. and the really deep emotional roots driving the whole system, and crucially, the importance of becoming the observer, the thinker, not just the thought.
It's definitely a journey, and it often requires facing some discomfort. But the payoff is genuine mental freedom.
It really feels like the core issue, for everyone listening, boils down to this shift, moving from being just a passenger in your own life, letting those old scripts steer.
To becoming the author of your story, taking the wheel.
Exactly. And mastery, as you said, isn't about controlling every single thought that seems impossible.
It's an illusion, yeah. It's more about consciously directing the flow of your attention and your energy. Setting your own standards based on who you want to be now, and choosing alignment with that new reality, rather than clinging to the comfortable, familiar illusion of the old patterns.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to take away from this deep dive. You've heard the ideas, you understand the mechanics now, but understanding isn't enough, is it?
No, at some point, words run out. Only action creates real change.
So the question to ponder is this. What automatic thought or belief has been controlling you most recently? The one you maybe pretend you're in charge of, but really it's running the show.
Identify that one specific limiting script. Maybe it's self-doubt before you speak up. Maybe it's the fear of judgment. Maybe it's that compulsion to say yes when you mean no.
That one script. And this is the crucial part, take one small single action today that directly contradicts it. Just one act of defiance against that old pattern.
That small act, that conscious choice to go against the grain of the old script, that's what genuinely weakens the cycle. That's how the mindset reset actually begins. It starts with that one defiant action.